Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Hitting the Mark with Mike Connolly. Today, I would like to share with you some aspects of the subject of money. Money is mentioned in the Old Testament and the New a total of 140 times. In Psalm 15:1, it says, Lord, who shall abide in thy tabernacle? And who shall dwell in thy holy hill? And in Psalm 15:5, it says, he that puts not his money out to usury. So here we have usury, of course, as you all know, is not charging interest for a loan. One translation goes so far as to say to not crush his debtors with high interest rates. Right now, I would like to spend some time and share with you some aspects of money, especially in our day when things are so volatile. I'm sure you're aware of that there is a war starting against having cash. Cash was and is the money of the black market. It's also the money of drug dealers and others who have a tendency to break the law. To those who do not fit in those categories, cash is a way of doing business in almost complete privacy. Whatever you spend your money on is your business. Your transactions were private and you had the freedom to do as you pleased with your money. But that changed in 1970. The government has required banks to report any cash withdrawal or deposit of $10,000 or more. I'm aware that what I'm about to tell you will seem odd, but your bank is actually required to report to the government any financial behavior on your part that even seems suspicious or unusual or out of the ordinary. Banks have come under the threat of regulatory punishment if they do not, in a sense, spy on you for the government. Now, if you use $100 bills, that really draws their attention because that's the favorite increment used by drug dealers. However, as is always the case, the truth behind all of this, the primary motive for this, is the government and the banks are concerned about tax evasion. There was a study done in 2011 at the University of Wisconsin-Madison and in Florida at the Jacksonville University, and it concluded, and I quote, between 18 to 20% of total reportable income in the U.S. is effectively off the books, hidden from the government. And believe me, the government can't stand that. They don't mind hiding things from you, but they hate it when you hide it from them. So from drugs, prostitution, gambling, simple things such as a home repair or buying an old car, money that's taken in and used at a garage sale, and thousands of other things, they have now totaled could bring $500 billion in tax revenue for our government to probably waste. Simply using cash is enough to get you branded as a potential threat, or even perhaps under the right circumstances, a budding criminal. If in the very near future we should end up as a cashless society, which probably will happen, remember these words. This is Revelation 13, verse 17. And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Most Fed policymakers are what we would call Keynesians. They follow the ideas of the late British economist John Maynard Keynes. He believed that the ups and downs of the business cycle could be leveled off if government and central banks would inject stimulus money into a down economy and increase taxes when the economy went back up. An example of this is, say for instance, if a dollar was taxed from the rich and then given to the poor via government, that dollar in essence generates a multiplier of $1.50 or more worth of economic stimulus. Why is that? Because the poor had to spend this money immediately because the government knows they are not going to save it. They need it. This supposed increase, this velocity of dollars from one source to another, and it actually speeds the economy. But in other words, it's nothing more than a distribution of wealth. It's just about what it amounts to. Keynes felt that saving money was bad for the economy because it would slow the economy down. When your money is not backed by anything, such as ours is, and you can print as much as you want, it's actually easier to stimulate the economy because you can do it faster. The sad fact is, most all of John Maynard Keynes' philosophies and theories and ideas have failed. When the economy turned bad in 2008, the Fed and the Obama administration put $8 trillion into the economy. Now, people, $8 trillion should have had us on top of the world as a nation. It should have stimulated almost everyone into some new level of prosperity, according to Keynes. Well, we all know what happened there. After all that stimulus and debt was heaped on taxpayers, both present and future, the U.S. economy was the slowest that it had been in 50 years. That, my friends, is just how deeply in debt this nation really is. Here's the really bad news. The Fed is out of tricks. There's nothing left to do to stimulate the economy. And under its present policy, it can't stimulate the economy. Now they come up with another idea. Let's try a negative interest rate. Let's let the interest rates fall below zero. Now think of this. People will be paid to borrow and they'll be charged to save. Things are getting really desperate. There's only one thing wrong with this solution. The only thing stopping this from being put into use is that cash is in the way. John Maynard Keynes liked the idea of money that could not be saved in bank accounts bearing very low or negative interest because saved money couldn't be taxed. And money that was spent could possibly be taxed in many different ways. as of late, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, or the FDIC, can only replace $1 for every $14 it now claims that it can insure. Now you add this to the mix. The International Monetary Fund, the IMF, is considering a global tax on savings. It's coming. It is coming. Not long ago, bank accounts were secure and they paid savers interest. I remember the days when interest was 4, maybe 5%. The practice of saving encouraged the virtue of thrift. But now, the instant gratification of today's society takes the virtue of patience and being thrifty with money and almost puts society on some kind of a drug. I want it now, no waiting. Don't talk to me about I want something, so I need to put money away. I need to go without. I need to set aside some things in my life so I can have things. Sacrifice so I can have things at a later date. The FDIC, even with the help of the Fed and the U.S. Treasury, cannot, under the present arrangements, insure more than 7% of the U.S. bank accounts if there is a major financial crisis. Then we have this, something called cyber attacks. Attacks on the U.S. financial industry that no one has ever seen before resulted in this: 15 of the largest U.S. banks being offline for a total of 249 hours in 2013. Add that to this: 100 million target customers just a few years ago recently discovered their private credit card information is no longer private. According to Defense Department consultant Kevin D. Freeman, there were 3 coordinated assaults or cyber attacks beginning in 2007 with a speculative run-up in oil prices that generated, now listen carefully, generated as much as $2 trillion worth of excess wealth for oil-producing nations, filling the coffer of a group called the Sovereign Wealth Funds. But most of those coffers, especially those, were groups that followed Sharia-compliant finance. Under Sharia law, you cannot charge interest. I don't know which side of America's political party those of you who are listening to this is on, but America's Democratic Party is ideologically committed to forcing more and more centralized control onto every aspect of your life. Decentralization and self-reliance would make Americans too independent. They would be too free. And socialists want to replace our individual liberty with collectivist control. So you see, everywhere you turn, someone wants to control your life. They want to take away your liberties. Listen to the words of Thomas Jefferson. This is a well-known quote about the banking system. I'm sure you've heard it. If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation and then deflation, the banks and the corporations that will grow up around them will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent that their fathers had conquered. I want to read something to you. This is a quote from John Maynard Keynes in his book, The Economic Consequences of the Peace. And he says this: by a continuous process of inflation, governments can confiscate secretly and unobserved an important part of the wealth of their citizens. By this method, they not only confiscate, but they confiscate arbitrarily. And while the process impoverishes many, it actually enriches some. The process engages all of the hidden forces of economic law on the side of destruction and does it in such a manner that not one man in a million could diagnose it. What a deal. I'm fully aware that the conditions everyone faces in this nation are absolutely overwhelming. It's like we're being held captive by so many seemingly small details. And in one sense, it's details that we can't do anything about. Especially when we are so concerned with the major everyday issues of our lives. But small details are important. In closing today, I want to share a story about Napoleon during the time of his invasion of Russia during one of the worst winters ever. This is an important lesson about small details. So listen to this. When Napoleon invaded Russia, the force of a severe winter took an extremely heavy toll on the troops, the animals, and the equipment. First of all, the decision to invade came in the late fall when they still had summer uniforms. He had trouble moving food, ammunition, men, animals, and supplies to the front lines as the cold drew near and the battle kept going and the winter turned worse. The harsh winter cold and the icy conditions took an extreme toll on the entire army. That winter, Napoleon lost 400,000 horses during that campaign. His horses were trying to pull equipment, men, and supplies over treacherous ice and snow, and the reason that happened is because someone overlooked a very small detail. That detail, they had on summer lightweight shoes instead of the larger, heavier winter shoes, which would have been much better under the harsh conditions. The horses were unable to keep their footing while pulling, and they would break their legs and have to be put down. I know that our lives are extremely busy. And it seems to many who truly is watching my back. So I hope that you listen to this video. I'm going to continue on with the subject of money and all the current things that are going on as of late. And I hope that you gain a sense of security through knowing some of these small details. I hope that I will continue to share things with you that will bring you into the light, so to speak. There is someone that's watching your back, and that is the Almighty, the Creator, the one who gave us his only begotten Son. And if there is anyone on earth that cares about you, it is Yeshua HaMashiach. So until the next time, I hope you enjoy your life. I don't want to give you this information to cause you any more worry. I'm sure you don't need any more of that. But I want to inform you so that you won't get blindsided, because when this government starts to panic, and they are, they're going to come down hard. And you're not always going to know what's coming. So I'm hoping in the next few weeks that you will try to find a time to sit down and listen, and perhaps take notes, and allow me to uncover things that I really feel you need to know, because I want you to be able to hit the mark. Don't want you to miss. And the mark in our terms is security. Our security is not based on anything in this world. It's based on the shed blood of Yeshua, blood that he shed for this entire world. And we as believers need to trust in that more than anything else life has to offer. I wish you the very best. And until the next time, may God bless you, and may you live in such a way that you bless him. Amen.